Parte uno, Matt Walsh, que es una mujer, mejores momentos. Vamos.
So what is a woman?
Why do you ask that question?
I just really like to know.
What do you think the answer to that question is?
Well, I'm asking. That's why I came to a college professor who's this is what you do.
What other kinds of answers?
Se supone que estos son los profesionales de hoy en día.
Have you gotten?
A lot of like this, where you're not answering, and I've gotten a lot of that. So
I think it's interesting that you say that some of the people you've interviewed have been reluctant to answer it, and I think that has a lot to do with the questions that preceded it, and the way that you've conducted yourself in the interview.
How have I conducted myself?
How do you think you've conducted yourself?
You just really don't want to answer the questions, do you?
I came today very willing and enthusiastic about.
Esa pregunta en específico no tiene una respuesta para esta gente porque, o sea, si se le da una respuesta a esta pregunta, una respuesta objetiva, una respuesta seria, pues el argumento de ellos se cae a pedazos después de haber respondido eso. Entonces no pueden responder, tienen que relativizarlo, ¿sí? Entonces cuando se relativiza el argumento de la cuestión, pues entonces todo es válido, es cuando su ideología, sus argumentos irracionales encajan.
Answering questions about women's and gender sexuality studies, which is
so
the work that I do.
You wanted to answer questions about women's studies, and so shouldn't the first answer you should be able to provide is what exactly is a woman?
Well, for me, it's actually a really simple answer, and that's a person who identifies as a woman.
But what are they identifying as?
As a woman.
But what is that?
No puede dar una definición y no la va a dar el payaso este porque simplemente no puede dar la definición. Entonces...
As a woman.
Do you know what a circular definition is?
I do.
It's sort of like what you're doing right now, where a woman is a woman.
Mm-hmm. Well, because you're seeking what we would call in my field of work an essentialist definition of gender. I think it sounds like you would like me to give you a set of biological or cultural characteristics that are associated with one gender or the other.
I'm not seeking any type of definition. I'm just seeking a definition.
Yeah, and I gave you one.
I don't care if you think you're a sheepdog and you come into my store. It don't matter to me. Just don't come in and try to shove that shit down my throat.
If it makes someone feel better, what about their feelings?
I don't give a shit about their feelings. I'm old.
What about the Star Wars universe? Jar Jar Binks, pansexual, do you think? Transgender?
Why would I even care?
If it's his truth.
Well, it ain't true.
You're not a scientist. You're not a gender studies major. Or are you?
No.
No? Okay. How do you know that you're a man?
How do I know that I'm a... I guess because I got a dick.
Huh. At what age can a child first begin to transition into another gender or identify themselves as a gender different from how they were born?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's research and data that show that babies and infants understand differences in gender. Some children figure out their gender really early, and the reason why we say, oh, that's interesting or important is because they're figuring out their gender identity is not necessarily congruent with their sex assigned at birth. Telling that family, based on that little penis, that your child is absolutely 100% male identified, no matter what else occurs in their life, that's not correct.
With the fluidity of...
Ahora están menospreciando el tamaño del nene, el tamaño del bebé. O sea, si lo tiene pequeño, entonces no es hombre. Básicamente eso fue lo que dijo, sí, que si lo tiene pequeño, entonces que basado en eso, sea tan pequeño. No sé, eso digo, no se puede decir que sea hombre. O sea, por favor, que falta de respeto.
Things. How do I know if I'm a woman? You know,
That's a great question.
I like scented candles. And
Yeah.
I've watched Sex and the City.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do I know?
Yeah, Matt, that question right there, like that question is like when it's asked with a lot of curiosity, right? That's the beginning of a lot of people's like gender identity development journeys.
If my mom who gave birth to me is a woman, and my wife is a woman, though I haven't asked her, maybe I should. But if they're all women,
Tal vez deba preguntarle. Yo creo que como va la cosa, deberíamos empezar a preguntarle a las personas, a las mujeres en nuestras vidas, si realmente son mujeres y viceversa, porque pues tal vez no.
women, and also the boy who sits down with you and says, I think I'm a girl, actually is one, then what is a woman?
Yeah. Great question. I'm not a woman, so I can't really answer that.
O sea, si no se es una mujer, no se puede responder. ¿Qué es una mujer? Interesante.
I don't know if you've ever heard of people in the trans-abled community. These are people who are physically able-bodied but feel like they should be disabled or identify as such. For example, a man who has 2 arms but feels like he should have 1. If a man in this kind of marginalized community went to the doctor and said, I want to have my arm cut off, do you think that
doesn't have anything to do with gender identity.
well, it's someone's self-identity, how someone identifies?
That's someone who has and I'll accept it as a mental diagnosis, a psychiatric condition. I don't even pretend to know what aptomenophilia is all about, but somehow it's the idea that you're fascinated or charmed by having a limb or part of a limb missing. Okay, I would say that's, pardon my non-medical language, kooky.
You don't see any? You think this is totally irrelevant?
Yep.
So, the biggest...
Es básicamente lo mismo, sí. Eso es básicamente lo mismo. Si una persona pide que se le corte un brazo porque se le antojó, es equivalente a cuando una persona pues simplemente quiere que se le corte pues no sé, el miembro porque se le antojó. Es lo mismo, pero pues ella simplemente no pudo responder porque es una pendeja.
Broadest question is, what is a woman?
A woman is it's a combination of your physical attributes and then what you're showing to the world and the gender clues that you give. And hopefully those match your gender identity.
The critics on the other side of this, of this issue.
There aren't many, but go ahead.
There aren't many who would disagree with what you're saying about.
Well,
Hay muchas personas que no están de acuerdo con estas ideologías. Aquí hay una y allá seguramente hay muchas más. Hay demasiadas personas que no están de acuerdo con esto. Y el hecho de que diga que no hay muchas, pues es una estupidez. Y además, pues, quiere hacer parecer como de que la minoría no son ellos, cuando ellos son la minoría. La mayoría de personas en su sano juicio no apoyan estas cosas simplemente porque son inteligentes, ¿sí? Y esto es un insulto al intelecto. Y al final dice que los dinosaurios del mundo ciertamente están ahí afuera. Entonces, a los que pensamos que esto es completamente loco, nos llama dinosaurios. Aplausos, aplausos. Bueno, pues como vieron, bastante claro el video, bastante claros los entrevistados. Al final no respondieron un carajo, nadie fue capaz de responder nada, porque estas personas no son capaces de responder nada. Como expliqué, es una de sus tácticas relativizarlo todo, ¿sí? Esta es de la corriente del relativismo moral, del constructivismo social, etcétera, etcétera. Realmente esto es una aspiración de las mentes de estas personas, pero no es algo que se corresponda con la realidad y jamás va a ser así. Suscríbanse, denle like si les ha gustado y apoyen este proyecto. Voy a dar por aquí la parte 2 por si la quieren ir a ver. La voy a estar subiendo en estos días, entonces estén pendientes. Ha sido un placer y nos vemos en el siguiente.
I got what grand in my diamond, yeah, buster. Who $250,000 my go yard duster. I win the game, so you still got to shuffle. One with the drip and just learn how to hustle. Look at your bitch through these DR by focus. I get me some head, she been that shit over. They say Lily, I been